Hello there, my name is Joe Whitehead, and this is the progress report of the prototype for my game, Mythic Protocol. Now, Mythic Protocol is eventually going to be a third-person, turn-based combat RPG in the same vein as a Final Fantasy game. They're what I grew up playing. I'm a little older than most of the people in the class, and they're what I have the most fond memories of. So far, I have some basic movement controls with the keyboard. I intend to utilize controller input at some point. I haven't gotten very far with character models yet because I have spent far more time working on my combat setup and UI integration than I ever thought was going to be necessary. But at this time, my game has a random encounter system set to trigger a scene change where the character and his team are transported to a combat scene where anywhere from 1 to 3 enemies are randomly generated with some predetermined class and stats that are scaled down appropriately compared to character stats of the same type of class. I'm still tweaking the combat speed and feel, but it's pretty easy to get into a combat session. Right now, you just walk around for a little bit, your characters will get transported, you get a nice little cinematic camera to show off the battlefield before the UI populates. I have a lot of different systems running to manage all of my combat, and as I said, it has become a lot more in-depth than I thought it was going to. But as of right now, my characters are really only set up to attack and defend. The enemies have a very basic UI, or not UI, I'm sorry, a very basic AI. They pretty much just pick a random team member of the player party and perform an attack action. There are numerous formulas set up to calculate chances for misses, critical hits. Um, there are also a framework for healing actions. I have a framework for items and abilities, but I haven't actually implemented any yet. You can see here if the enemy gets a critical hit or anybody gets a critical hit, the damage text turns red and actually gets a little bit bigger. Um, as you can see, the combat flow still feels a little bit slow. I may need to adjust my my hit calculator so that my player party misses a little bit less, but once a combat action is completed, I have a system set in place right now that can maintain persistent stats so that characters can progress and level up. Each of the different classes has their own starting stats and growth profile depending on how far they level. Their stats will level at different rates compared to different classes. Eventually, I intend to basically set up these character models and this world to be very robotic themed. I intended to have it set in such a way so that um, I didn't want any sentient life in this world to have any biological elements to it. I wanted basically everything to be mechanical. Um, this whole combat scene transition between exploration and combat has been so much more difficult than I ever expected it to be. So I really feel like once the backbone of this system is complete, most of what I will have left to do is just art, uh, interactions between characters and items in the world, uh, and building environments and a script for how I want this game to play out. It sounds like a lot, but I can honestly say that between what I have left to do with the animations, character modeling, Um, and, abilities, I already have frameworks for abilities and item use. Uh, I just haven't actually implemented any yet. So I really feel like once this whole combat transition system and everything, as RPGs really do center around the combat mechanics, uh, I feel like I will have probably more than 50% of actual completion progress done on this game. It's mostly just going to be art and dialogue. Uh, Once everything is working the way I want it to, I feel like uh, the speed of the progress will increase, but I don't know how much I'm actually going to be able to get done before the end of this semester. The character modeling in Blender was already eating up a ton of my time in the past, so I can only imagine what it'll be like to start trying to create unique character models for specific classes. But right now, my character classes include an assault unit character. This one is intended to be the placeholder for the main character of my game's script in the future. Uh, this whole storyline for this game is going to be influenced by Homer's Odyssey. So Otis right here is going to be the main character. Uh, Ascleo over here is the protocol unit. He's a support unit, healer, high speed, intelligence, and wisdom, but low attack, low defense, low hit points. Athos is a barrier unit, primarily stat focused on his uh, defenses and his constitution. I have unique stat identifier names between the characters, or not the characters, just in general. They're all robotic themed. Traditional strength is actually power output. Uh, Defense is chassis integrity. Constitution it's I can't think of it while I'm continuing to talk and film this all in one go. But as you probably noticed at this point, the combat feel is a little bit slow for the moment because I haven't actually implemented any healing mechanics. I have a framework for them, I just haven't created those parts yet. Uh, the character health points reset after combat, and obviously I haven't used any ability points yet, or energy points is what this is going to be. Uh, AP over here is action points, and that's this is really kind of a reference to old Final Fantasy games for me. A little action bar that fills up, and then once it's full, your characters can make an action. The enemies are also running on an action bar system, so they're getting their turns as their bars fill up. The action bar's fill speed is influenced by a character's speed stat as well as just a general uh, base modifier for all of the characters to use. So as the characters level up, their speeds increase, their AP bars will increase as well. With the setup I have right now, being able to keep character models attached to specific class objects, they're all scriptable. That also gives me a framework set up to basically start building enemy archetypes too. If I want to do something that's small and fast or a flying enemy, I can do that and attach it to an object that I can manipulate to scale the stats depending on how much progress has been made in the story. Enemies tend to level up as you get deeper into these games, and so by doing that, I will be able to control that and even set up maybe a regional system where certain enemies are only available to appear in certain regions. Uh, right now, my enemies all use the same basic character model, but they do have different stats. The naming system is currently set up to randomize between one of three words, and a random number value between 100 and 999. So I have a lot going on. I don't know how much longer it would take to implement a full-on multi-hour RPG game. I'm starting to realize at this point why these big studios just take so long to pump games out. This has just been so much work over the past few weeks. The last week alone, I think I probably spent almost 40 hours just in here coding and debugging, and I probably have a lot of extra debug uh, callouts just to make sure all of my methods are working the way I want them to, and finding problems anywhere I go. It's been a lot of work, but this is going to be Mythic Protocol, and I look forward to continuing to work on it, even if it's eaten up a lot of my family time. I'll finish up this combat action so that hopefully you'll be able to see that the level up system does work. The previous fight, each of the characters got 50 experience. From level 1 to level 2, it's 100 experience required. If I set up my UI correctly, which I was working on this afternoon and still actually haven't had a chance to test, it should notify a level up, which it did. If I come back in here, well, I have it set to maximize, so I can't show the inspector, but you'd be able to see that the characters do indeed stay at level 2 at this point, and their stats will have increased compared to what they were at level 1. This has been a huge framework, a lot of work, and I look forward to putting more into it. Thank you very much for your time. This video is already too long. Have a good day.